Well, you just heard Mike read to you from the second half of the first chapter of Matthew. You just heard it. Matthew, of course, due to the wisdom and not really sure what else of people in the 5th century, the ones who put together what we call the Bible, they put together the canon, and the people that were responsible for that decided that Matthew would be the first book in the New Testament. Matthew. So, in our tradition, the New Testament begins with the Gospel according to Matthew. First, we have a genealogy of Jesus that Matthew presents, which I'm not going into today, which is, you can read that later. And then we have what Mike just read to us. So let me ask you, what did you think about what Joseph said? Anybody? Or Mary? What did you think about what Mary said? Oh, Mary and Joseph don't speak. Interesting. The New Testament begins with Mary and Joseph not speaking. The title of this message is First Words. The first words in the New Testament are spoken by whom? By an angel. Mike just read it for us. And the first words out of the angel's mouth were what? Anybody remember? Come on, you extroverts. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. The New Testament begins with an angel saying to us, don't be afraid. Actually, the angel speaks in Greek. In Koine Greek, this is important, and it's recorded for us in Koine Greek, which is the language of the New Testament, K-O-I-N-E, Koine Greek, and it comes to us down through the centuries. The word is phobetos. The angel says, don't be phobetos. Okay, now this is the last time I'll call on you extroverts. Does that word phobetos, does that remind you of an English word?
Phobia.
Phobia. It's the same word. What the angel essentially is saying to Joseph is, hey Joseph, don't get all caught up in a phobia. And it is almost an injustice that over the centuries, the church has not done a better job of talking about this, because there is a profound difference between a fear and a phobia. How do I know this? I looked it up. And I've got the results of my research right here. The etymology of that word phobia, what phobia means is this. Quote, the term phobia originates from the Greek word phobos, which means fear or panic. It denotes an irrational fear or aversion to something, often exaggerated or imaginary. Now, if a roaring lion bursts through that door and charges into this sanctuary, and if I ask you, are you afraid, and you say no, I'm not going to believe you. That's a legitimate fear. The angel is not beginning the New Testament with saying, never be afraid. No. It's fear, as you know, can be one of our greatest gifts. I have a friend who dedicated he's retired now, he dedicated his ministry, his whole life, to working with street people in the city of Chicago. This was his ministry. And I would take my confirmation class every year, and we'd We'd hang out with him for a few hours on the streets at night and listen to what he had to say and watch what he did to minister to people on the street. And the first words out of his mouth every time, talking to my 7th grade confirmation class, is he would say, listen now, boys and girls, young people, listen. You need to have a healthy fear of the streets. I had never heard anybody say that before. But he said, yes, you need to have that. A healthy fear. Respect. Respect what can happen. See, it's not what the angel says. The angel says, don't get all irrational, Joseph. Don't get a phobia. I'm combining prayers of the people now with my sermon for a second, because I want to tell you that I visited Steve Hatfield yesterday in the hospital at Ohio State. He's in the Wexner Medical Center. And we had a nice visit. He's doing okay. He still has challenges ahead of him. Okay, he's not going to get out of the hospital anytime soon, probably, but his mind is sharp as ever. We had a nice visit. I want you to know that. And I also want you to know that I have a phobia. I'm confessing to you. I have an irrational fear of elevators. I don't like, I'm claustrophobic. I've never been in the elevator in this church, and I never will be. I get the shakes just walking by it. Steve's room was on the 19th floor at the Wexner Center. I actually thought about walking up, but I took the elevator. And I got to tell you, it's hard. It's hard for me. I was by myself, which is unusual, on Saturday morning. And those elevators in the Wexner Center, my dad was a patient there when he died years ago. I know about these elevators. They hesitate. You get on these elevators at Wexner Medical Center and you press 19 and nothing happens. It hesitates for about 5 full seconds. A few months ago I had to ride those elevators, and about halfway down a couple of nurses came on, pressed their number, and then one of the nurses said to her coworker, I hate these elevators. She said, they always hesitate. I'm never sure if they're going to go. And I'm like, yeah. I have an irrational fear. I did it, but it's hard. And I just bring it up because I want you to understand the angel is not saying to Joseph, never be afraid. The angel is saying to Joseph, be aware of your irrational fears. The angel speaks, don't be afraid, and the New Testament begins. Now there's a lot to this, and I'm going to highlight just 2 or 3 things on this first Sunday in Advent. The first thing was that, what the angel really says. And by the way, do any of us gathered here today, do we have any reason or reasons to develop phobias about what's going on in the world today? Is this, yeah. Yes. So, listen to the words of the angel in this first Sunday of Advent. Be careful about your phobias. Don't let your phobias make your decisions for you. That's what the angel's saying. The next thing I wanted to mention was this amazing word, Emmanuel. On the count of 3, I want you to, I'm inviting you to say it with me. Okay? On the count of 3, we're all going to say Emmanuel. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Emmanuel. I'm going to not charge you anything for your first Hebrew lesson. You just took it. Emmanuel. It's actually a sentence. In Hebrew, it's a sentence, and Matthew translates it for us. It means God is with us. And in order to understand how important this is in the Christmas message, how important the tradition of naming was and is in the Jewish tradition, naming someone is an incredibly important part of the Jewish tradition, to this day. So, in order to understand that, we need to go back to the beginning of the Judeo-Christian tradition. I'm going to take us back to the beginning of the Judeo-Christian tradition. And we need to go back to Exodus 3. Okay? In order to really understand Christmas, we've got to go back to Exodus 3. Exodus 3, we have Moses. Okay? What happened to Moses in Egypt? Moses was raised by the Pharaoh. He was a man of privilege, but he became aware of his Hebrew roots, and Moses had a temper, and Moses killed an Egyptian who was mistreating another Hebrew person. So Moses, who was Pharaoh's right-hand man, had to take it on the lam. He had to run for his life. He went to this obscure desert land known as Midian. The only one that would give him a job is his father-in-law, Jethro. His father-in-law gave him a job. He gave him a job tending sheep. And you probably remember in Exodus 3, we find Moses on the lam who had killed someone, who had murdered someone. He's walking along on Mount Horeb, and he sees something over there. It's not a Christmas tree with blinking lights, but it's close. What does he see? He sees a burning bush. And he approaches the bush, and a voice speaks to him from the burning bush. Anybody remember what the voice said initially to Moses? Moses, take your shoes off. The ground on which you are standing is Kodesh. That's Hebrew for holy. Kodesh. It's the first time the word appears in the Bible. It's the first time the ground on which you stand is the first time that word appears in the Bible. It doesn't happen in Genesis, doesn't happen in Eden. Nothing is referred to as holy until there. The desert full of rocks and stones and sand and scorpions and critters and animals. Our God says, take your shoes off. It's holy ground. And they have a conversation. Moses and God has a conversation. And so, essentially what God says to Moses is, I want you, Moses, I've got a job for you. I want you to go to Washington, D.C., and I want you to make it all right. That's basically what he said to him. I want you to go to Washington, D.C. and make it all right. Because he says to him, I want you to go to Egypt. I want you to set my people free. And Moses has a brain, so Moses starts to have what is slowly becoming an argument with God. And he's essentially saying to God, What? So he starts making up excuses. God's becoming more and more annoyed. And Moses finally says, I don't know how to speak. I'm not a good speaker. I won't be able to do public speaking. And so, annoyed, God says, we'll work that out. I'll get you your brother to go with you, your brother Aaron. We'll work it out. And finally, Moses is desperate, and he's maybe starting to relent. And finally, he asks the question that is forbidden. It was forbidden to ask this of God. And Moses says to God, all right, listen, if I actually do this, and Pharaoh asks me, who sent me? What's your name, God? You were not allowed to ask this of God. What's your name? What do I tell Pharaoh? And God shockingly answers the question. God speaks to Moses in Hebrew, and he says, Ayeh, Asher, Ayeh. It's this It's this incredibly profound, slippery sentence. That's the thing about Hebrew. He says, tell Pharaoh my name is Ahyeh, Asher, Ahyeh. One of the sort of mistakes that the church has done over the centuries is tell us that is translated, I am who I am, right? It's not really what it says. Martin Buber, in one of his books entitled On the Bible, he writes pages and pages and pages about the possibility of what Ahyeh, Asher, Ahyeh actually means. And he finally says essentially what this Hebrew sentence says is, I am with you. I am present. That's the name of our God. I am present. You tell Pharaoh I'm present. And Moses keeps focusing on the task. The task is impossible. And what does God keep trying to say to Moses? God keeps focusing on the relationship. And so essentially, God says to Moses, stop focusing on the task. Focus on the fact that I am always with you. Do you see the difference? Yeah. And that's the beginning of the Judeo-Christian tradition. And it brings us up to the passage today where now we've got a New Testament, a new beginning, a book of the Bible known as Matthew, and the first words are spoken by an angel who says to Joseph, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for that which is born in her is of the Holy Spirit. And Joseph, God's not going to name this kid. You are, Joseph. You're going to name him. And you're going to name him Jesus, because he's going to be known as Emmanuel. And that word Jesus means God saves us. You're going to name him. And that's where Emmanuel comes in. God is with us. First words, don't be afraid. Emmanuel, God is with us. Ahyeh, Asher, Ahyeh. I am with you. It's the first words of the New Testament, and it's the last word on Advent. Amen?